Barnaby Joyce, welcome to the program.
Been nice and close. Yes, thank you.
Good to be in Gladstone. Look, let's start on the Solomon Islands before we get to what's happening more locally here. For years you've been warning about the need to take the threat of China more seriously.
Yeah.
Now there's the prospect of a Chinese military base, which you've called a Little Cuba, on our doorstep. Was this threat taken seriously enough?
Well, you're right, but right back to 2009 when I fought against the Chinalco, which is a state-owned enterprise trying to take over Rio. And I think I was belittled by all sides there, called a redneck, a xenophobe, a bigot. Now they just say it's correct. Yes, this has been a long-term plan. The Chinese government works to a long-term plan. And this is just another form of island hopping, which is part of the strategic process so often used by either the United States or Japan or now China to get a presence. Now, the Solomons has said that they will not be allowing a Chinese naval base.
Do you believe that?
Well, I believe that if they say it, that is their policy. I believe that that is not what the Chinese want, and I base it on what they're doing in Djibouti, in Tajikistan, in Myanmar. In Djibouti, they have up to, at times, 2,000 troops on the ground, 2,000 sailors, and obviously that would be a great problem for Australia.
Hence your Little Cuba comment. Do you think it's really that serious?
I just hope that China does not get the capacity to set up a naval base, because it's obviously an intimidating tactic to Australia.
Do you think they will?
They'd want to. They want to. There's no doubt about that, because we see what they did in the South China Sea, where they said they weren't going to militarise. And obviously for the Solomons, I take their word. But I say be really careful inviting a totalitarian power into your country, because it is going to affect your sovereignty. And
so coming back to whether Australia took it seriously enough, the Prime Minister apparently only spoke to his counterpart in the Solomons once in the past month. The Foreign Minister wasn't sent there. The US, by contrast, have sent this top-level delegation, Kurt Campbell and so on. I mean, do you think Australia took a gently approach?
No, I don't. And I'm Deputy Chair of the National Security Committee. And I'd say that the Prime Minister has been in an intense process around this for a long period of time, not just with the Solomons, but also with the Foreign Minister, Marise Payne, as a mechanism of that is her portfolio. And also with a whole plethora of other Pacific nations. I mean, this is not something that we were blinded by, we didn't wish for. We were very concerned about, and that's why right now the United States and Australia, working in lockstep, the Solomons have offered the commitment, have placed the commitment that there will not be a naval base in the Solomons.
But can you understand why people think, well, hang on, why didn't you send the Foreign Minister? Why didn't the PM pick up the phone a few more times?
The Prime Minister did pick up the phone, and the Prime Minister, in one of his first visits after becoming Prime Minister, went into the Pacific Islands.
But since we knew about this deal, it seems like there was only one phone call. Can you explain why?
I cannot confirm or how many phone calls were made. Obviously, as Deputy Chair of the National Security Committee, it comes with 15 years in jail if you start declaring what happens. But I think it's...
You can say how many phone calls he made, but his counterpart.
No, I can't.
That's a national security secret, is it?
I think in some instances it is, yeah.
How many times did you call a foreign leader?
If it's in regards to our defence, yeah. And if it's part and parcel of discussions on the National Security Committee, yes, absolutely.
Do you think
it has a cabinet and confidence and beyond cabinet and confidence how you deal with those issues?
Do you think Prime Minister Sogavare was bribed by China?
Look, I have no evidence of that. So what I would say is for Mr. Sogavare himself to explain how this is. What I will say, and I'll repeat, if you invite a totalitarian regime into your country, of course it will have effect on your sovereignty. And that's something that is not fiction. You can go to other countries where the Chinese government are involved, and it most definitely affects the sovereignty. And Djibouti is one.
Yeah, the US says it'll respond accordingly if China does establish a military base there. What does that mean?
Well, it means that the United States also is very aware of tactics in the Pacific and how they work. With the United States, we've been involved in a world war in the Pacific.
So how would they respond?
Well, that's for the United States to discuss, but I would say that the United States is in lockstep with Australia.
So how would Australia respond?
This is very serious, and we're going to make sure that we keep our nation as strong as possible and get there as quickly as possible, which I've been saying for a long, long while.
So what would Australia do?
Well, that is a discussion that obviously I'm not going to start going through combinations and permutations of what happens in the future, because right now the most important thing is the Solomons, Mr. Socavare has said that they will not be entertaining a Chinese naval base. Now that is their statement. That is their statement, and so we'll stick with their statement.
Is there anything the government would do if you're re-elected to stop China encroaching further in the Pacific? Anything you'd change?
We're always incredibly aware of what this means, and the Australian people should be incredibly aware, because about 2,000 kilometres off there, that we know what the Chinese wishes are, and we don't want their wishes to happen. Because, and we've been aware of this, that's why we have AUKUS, that's why we're buying nuclear submarines, that's why we have the Quad, and I think you'll find that those preparations started also quite some time ago.
Let's turn to the issues here in Gladstone. I mean, China and national security has been on the minds of people I've been speaking to. They're also a little worried about the energy transition that's often talked about here. There is hope this region becomes a powerhouse for green energy and hydrogen. But some uncertainty, and they want to see a plan. What is your plan?
Well, they have uncertainty because of this. They have the possible Prime Minister of Australia, who right at the very start was unable to comprehend basic economic facts or was unaware of them. That concerns people here. Then you had, on a key policy, because we're in a regional area, they're super clinics where they stumbled, they fumbled, I think they BS'd a bit.
You're talking about Labor's policies. My question is about your plan for this region.
I think it's also important because we're getting to that they're unable to cost out their super clinic policy.
Do you have a plan
Then they
for this
started,
region?
yeah, we do, I'm getting to it. And then they lied about our policy, which people knew were a lie, yet they still stare down the barrel and lie about it, which is saying that...
So what's your plan for the region?
Well, let's look at exactly here. Their key policy on their climate change policy...
Let's talk about your plan if we can.
Well, it's because it's different to theirs, is the safeguard mechanism, which both the potential acting Prime Minister and the potential Treasurer had no idea about.
Can we get to a plan?
And what we are doing is making sure that, because their plan is to break down, our plan is, as long as they want to buy coal, we are selling coal. Because we have to become as strong as possible, as quickly as possible.
As long as the energy transition. People I've spoken to are very keen to hear some sort of plan for this energy transition.
And here's the vital difference, is that we are standing by the jobs they've got and we are investing billions in towards hydrogen. But we are not going to be saying to people the word transition, because that equals unemployment. Transition to what? There is no other industry here. But we are investing billions of dollars for hydrogen.
And where's that going? What's that billions
And what that
doing?
allows them to do is them to see, workers in Gladstone to see, there is the other job at the same pay and same conditions. So now what the Labor Party is doing is saying...
Let's just stick with yours if we can. Sorry, we've heard a fair bit about Labor's. What are your billions for hydrogen doing?
Well, the billions we've seen in our regional plan, you're seeing with our expansion of the Pilbara and the investment in there, in Darwin with critical minerals, that are vital, with the investment here and the investment across our nation, working with other major such as Fortescue Metals towards hydrogen, but we are not going to take people out of their jobs.
So you're putting money into Fortescue's hydrogen plants?
The Labor Party are taking them out of their job as they reduce their safeguard mechenism.
Can we stick with your plan just for a moment? Are you putting some of that money...
If you just let me answer this question, then we can go to yours. If the Labor, and don't edit this out.
We've heard a lot about Labor.
If the Labor Party reduces, I'll answer the question for the possible acting Prime Minister and future Treasurer. If you bring in a reduction in your safeguard mechanism, yes, you do have to buy permits. It's in the policy. Okay. You should have read it.
We've got the point. Are you putting money into Fortescue's hydrogen plans?
We're going to work especially for the setup of the fundamental infrastructure to support that.
What does that mean?
That means whether it's roads, whether it's headworks, whether it's the capacity to allow these investments to come forward.
You wouldn't underwrite a hydrogen plan?
Well, I'm not at this stage. No, I don't think that's
You've long advocated the need to underwrite new coal-fired power. Well, why not hydrogen?
I don't think that's correct.
You moved an amendment under your name about a year ago.
I think what the issue which we need there is if people are looking for support through the Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund or the Clean Energy Finance Corporation to make coal cleaner, to make coal more energy efficient, that is certainly something we'd be considered. But just what about
the Collinsville coal-fired power plant? Do you still want to build that?
The business case is going forward, and if the business case stacks up, then I'm quite happy for us to build it. But it's not that
with government.
It's not that we build it. I think there should be access. If a business case stacks up, then people should be able to access the finance, and certain things, such as Northern Australia Infrastructure Fund, should certainly give it a consideration.
Why do we still need to wait for the business case for you to make a call on that? A few weeks ago, you told me on Q&A you didn't need a business case to commit to the Hells Gate Dam.
Well, the Hells Gate Dam is quite self-evident. It's been brought forward by the Townsville Enterprise Corporation, and
is this coal-fired power plant?
I'll tell you what the difference is. It's a good question, right? That's why you got the job. Because it's actually Labor Party policy, Hells Gate Dam. It's actually, they took it to a state election, and then they said, to try and say, we're not run by the Greens, we'd build it. Well, we've actually given them all the money.
So because Labor like it?
I guess they won't. Well, I suppose unless we believe the Queensland Labor government is also incompetent and unable to. I mean, watching their interviews is like, it's just train wreck interviews.
We're back on to Labor. Just a couple of other local issues. Health comes up a lot here.
Yep.
The lack of GPs in regional areas like this. What more can you do to get more doctors into the regions?
Well, I think that the first thing is, that's in regional, we actually have a regional health minister. The Labor Party have a minister for the Republic. Now, I don't know how that works. You have an accident and you find out whether we believe in a photo of the Queen.
How are you going to get more GPs here?
Well, David Gillespie, the regional health minister, which we have and they don't, will be bringing forward a policy in the coming week to deal with this issue. What will that involve? Well, I'm not going to announce David Gillespie's policy for him. So, and this is, we've brought forward the Murray-Darling Basin Medical School in the past. We'll be expanding allied health services, and you'll hear that in very short form in other areas to make sure it comes forward. We have regional medical schools. My daughter goes to one in Newcastle as training as a doctor. So, you know, we have been alive to this issue. In fact, it's the Nationals and Liberals which have been driving this issue, and we have much further to add in this space. The Labor Party can't even cost their own super clinic policy, and they don't even have a regional health minister, but they do have a minister for the Republic.
And Billawheeler's just down the road.
Yep, Billa.
Your position is very clear on the family of asylum seekers that 4 years ago were put in detention.
You're going to ask me what correspondence I have, and I'm not going to tell you.
No, I was going to ask you whether you still think they should be returned to Billawheeler.
I believe my position remains the same. I try to remain constant in this. The position I have in Billawheeler and Central Queensland is the same I have in Canberra. I think that's one of the problems with the Labor Party. They have different positions for different towns.
So have you had any luck convincing the immigration minister on that?
I'm having discussions with them, and we have seen that at this point in time, this family has not been extradited to back to Sri Lanka.
Could there be movement on that before the election?
I'm not going to sort of entertain the positions on this.
Look, final one. You've and your colleagues have been on quite a spending spree in the lead up to and during the campaign, billions for a lot of regional infrastructure. I mean, yesterday the PM was also announcing $20 million for fishing, boating, camping facilities, the sort of stuff local government typically does. This is despite the fact that we've got debt like we've never seen in Australia before, and now the PM today is guaranteeing no new taxes or increased taxes in the next term of Parliament. Won't something have to give after the election to deal with this debt?
We've had a turnaround of over $100 billion in our deficit position because we actually do respect the fact we're making so much money from the export of coal, selling more of it at a higher price than we've ever done before. We've got unemployment at 4% and we're bringing it lower, which saves so much off our budget. We are making sure that in our investments that the National Party was crucial in the negotiations. We have further expansion of where we make money, whether that's the Pilbara, whether that's the Northern Territory, sealing a third road through the deserts with critical mineral precincts to drive that industry, critical minerals ahead, hydrogen, coal, being unafraid to say the word and to stand behind it.
What about debt? You don't talk about debt so much anymore.
And what we are doing, and in the debt, the way to understand that is not to listen to me or to listen to the Labor Party, but to listen to Fitch, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, which has us as AAA rated, which means we're there with Switzerland and Norway. We're above the United States, we're above England, we're above Japan, and that is a very good recommendation of our economic strength, which I truly believe if the Labor Party gets in, they will put it under threat, as they always do.
Barnaby Joyce, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.